There we go.
You want me to start it? You want me to get it going?
Always.
Guys, welcome back to FunBelt Podcast. We've got our original crew. We got Shane Metlin. We got Thibs. We got myself, Jerry Harper, getting ready for this Sunbelt football season. And basketball kind of sneaks up. Volleyball comes in. Soccer. It's all coming up, guys. But you know what? Right now, I'm a little stressed out. I'm a little freaked out.
Shocker. You're always freaked out, stressed out, Jeremy.
You're supposed to be my friends. You're supposed to be asking why.
Okay. Why, Jeremy?
All right. So, do you guys ever take a bath,
No.
a tub? Yeah, Thibs.
No.
I didn't think you were a tub guy. Shane, I suspect that every now and then you light the candles, you get the bath bomb, maybe the salts, and maybe you get a magazine or a radio or the hairnet or something, and you get in the tub. Am I right?
Not so much the bath bombs and the candles and stuff, but sometimes I'm getting to the age where I just need to soak the muscles a little bit because it's been a lot of yard work or something.
It's really how I decompress. Like at the end of the day, I've had a hard day. I'm going to sit some time in the tub. I take my phone. I sit there. I do a little twittering. That's what I do. It's my time. So here I am. I'm getting ready to get in my tub, right? And I noticed that, my wife, sometimes she blows dries her hair. And some of her hair gets in the tub, just strands. Like, oh, shit. So there's like kind of a rag at the bottom of the tub that has been there from my last tub last night. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to get rid of this hair. And as I'm in there, in the tub, something scurries across my foot as I lift the rag. And it's one of these, I don't know, I think, Shane, you might be familiar with these more than Thibs, because I don't think they've made it to Houston yet. House centipedes, these kind of long, mustache-shaped, long-legged centipede things that lives in moist places in your house. Thibs, have you seen one of these?
Yeah, they're called something different down here, like silverbacks or something like that.
Silverfish, I think some people might call them. I don't know if it's a silverfish. I know what a silverfish is. These are different. They're like walking mustaches, and they're super fast. They scurry around, and I tell you what, it ruined the tub for me. I spent about 10 minutes filling my water cup and trying to wash it down the drain. It's like, trying to survive. And I'm just trying to push it down the drain with water, and it's getting weaker and weaker, but it won't go down. And then finally, really after 10 minutes of struggle, it finally goes down the drain. I just sink it into in there. I'm like, I don't even know if I can take this tub. But then I ended up taking it. I relaxed, but I'm still a little shaken by the whole experience. Shane, you've seen these things, right? On the East Coast. That's when I first found them. I first saw one in Knoxville. And I didn't think they'd make it to Arkansas, but they have. Do you know what I'm talking about?
He's speechless, as always. You got to
Shane
quit asking him hard questions like that because he just freezes up. He gets all nervous and
First
jittery.
of all, he's dressed like he's in the witness protection program, like he's being interviewed by 60 Minutes.
He is.
And like he's a mobster, and he can't get his internet to work, even though Shane is a high-tech, highly sought-after journalist on the East Coast, cannot get his internet to work smoothly for this broadcast.
It's those damn creatures you were just talking about, Jeremy. They've gotten into the lines, and that's what they mean by a bug in the system.
House centipede. Look it up on Google. They're really disgusting. People say they're good luck. Like they eat spiders and they eat other things that you don't like. But I don't like them. I would rather have the spider, to tell you the truth, than a house centipede. But yes, so I'm a little high strung tonight, which is too bad because we have a guest later on in the show. And I don't want to be high strung. I want to be sharp. I want to be, penetrating. I want to ask the tough questions. I want to get to the bottom, the meat of what we're trying to talk about tonight. So, Thibs, you're going to have to help me out on this.
Well, the first thing, the AP poll came out.
Oh, God, you're just going to make me mad. You're going to make me angry.
No.
Okay.
We have 4 in the others receiving votes. What more could you want that Troy, App State, Is it Texas State?
Is this where we are? We're happy to be receiving votes? Good God, man. Have some dignity.
Better than where we were last year and the year before that, and probably the year before that. That you got to start somewhere.
This is
you
the
got to
first
have
time.
those teams and the others receiving votes in order for them to start moving up into the top 25.
Thibs, this is the first time since 2014 that a group of 5 team has not been inducted into the preseason AP Top 25 poll. That to me signifies something extremely sad and dangerous for the group of 5. Don't make me angry, Thibs. I'm already flustered by the House Centipede. I'm flustered because Shane can't get his video together, and I'm triply flustered because when I thought Shane was coming back in, this handsome bearded creature comes in out of nowhere, really making us look bad. Adam Witten, welcome to the show. And Shane, he has arrived too. Shane, God, for God's sakes, tell me that you fixed your internet.
I'm not making any promises. I'm not at home, so it's dicey, but we'll hopefully last for a little bit. What?
Are you doing an undercover journalism assignment? Is that why you look like this?
Exactly. Yes.
Adam, when you said you were running late, you thought I was kidding when I was like, yeah, it'll give us time to figure out what the hell we're doing. No, it pretty much gives us time to figure out what the hell we're doing.
I can appreciate when you just kind of the production meeting just happens after you hit the record button instead of before you hit the record button.
Oh, that's funny.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I used to do great show notes in detail. Here's what we're going to talk about. Here's things we got to do. These jackasses would never do anything. So you know what? I was like, screw it. We're winging it. We look like a bunch of morons, but we roll with it and go with it from there.
Oh,
That's where the best stuff comes from.
Yeah. So Thibs, just because you're the professional, I guess we're not. We're not the professionals. Thibs is the professional here. How about you introduce our guests to the FunBelt podcast masses?
This is the man. He was not there when they beat Michigan, but I'm sure he still gets to go back and relive that glory. He watches it on YouTube and has redubbed himself over it. He was there for the Texas A&M win.
It's not a bad idea.
See, Jeremy, do you see how the brilliant mind works in production?
When you get professionals involved, it's just so much better.
and that's when Shane leaves.
He gone.
Adam Witten, the voice of the Mountaineers, joins us. Adam, welcome to the shit show as we get ready for the upcoming season. You got to be on cloud 9, knowing that you're coming in with an App State team that really looks like they're set to just run the tables, run away with a Sun Belt Conference championship. But, at the same time, how many times have we seen this where a Mountaineers team comes in with all this hype, they make it to the championship game, but it's another team lifting the hardware?
Yeah, it's interesting. First of all, thank you guys for having me. I'm excited to be part of the show. Really, any excuse to talk football when we're still in mid-August. It has happened where the team has had high expectations and they did not finish the way they started. I mean, 2022 is the perfect example of that, where they had a lot of the pieces in place. You mentioned the Texas A&M game, and when you go and you play a game in the 60s against North Carolina and then you beat A&M and then you win on a Hail Mary, you think, wow, maybe this team is just charmed and they're going to have a magical season. And then it just completely swirled down the drain. But yeah, I mean, I would say in each of Sean Clark's previous 4 seasons, there have been some significant unknowns. I mean, his first year was COVID, right? So that's the biggest unknown of them all. 2021 was the year after COVID, and we had a brand new transfer quarterback in Chase Bryce. And, we had some guys returning, but it was still kind of the year after COVID unknown. 2022, unproven guys at skill position, especially wide receiver, because a bunch of those super seniors had left from 21. And then last year, you didn't really know what you were going to get out of a quarterback. Were you either going to have a redshirt freshman and Ryan Berger, or were you going to have this JUCO kid from California and Joey Aguilar? And we saw how that turned out, but not without some shaky moments early and midway through the season. So, yeah, I mean, the team has been able to get on the cusp of its goal of winning a championship, but this year, I mean, look, you never know until you get the game started, but there's a lot of cautious optimism in terms of this has the pieces, the potential to be a special season, because not only do you have a lot of the skill position players back, the depth, great results out of the transfer portal, but you have the coaching staff intact. You have your head coach and your two coordinators coming back for the first time really since Scott Satterfield left. So there's a lot of reason to be excited in Boone.
Hey, Adam, you talked a little bit about Coach Sean Clark. He's been there for a few seasons. Before we talk about the future, I want to talk a little bit about the past. There was some, at least outside of Boone, some rumbling that maybe Sean Clark was a little bit in trouble after that troubled 2022 season. Yeah, 2022 season, comes back and wins the FunBelt East. Was he in trouble, or was it just sort of like something from the outside looking in to just assume that because the team was struggling, he must be in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. First of all, Shane, glad to see you're in a new location. He just teleported to some different location somewhere.
Some basement torture
with slightly better lighting. Slightly better lighting. But no, it's a fair question. I mean, look, you're at App State. If you go 6-6, if you go 6-6 and miss a bowl game, there's going to be questions. There is disappointment. You have not reached expectations. You have come up short from what is expected out of you as a program, not just the head coach, as a program at App State. Like, that's not the standard. Isn't just to have a winning season and go to a bowl game. The standard is to compete for championships. And so, Sean Clark had been to a conference championship game in 21. But then when you go 6-6, you'd say, okay, the challenge of his tenure was he entered in as the head coach, not just with a program that had won 4 straight conference championships, but had gone through so much coaching turnover before. He was the third head coach in 3 seasons. You had new coordinators, new quarterbacks, new coordinators on both sides of the ball. And he takes over in the middle of COVID. And so he came into a really difficult situation, even though it's kind of hard to think of it as a difficult situation when you come to App, because there's always so much talent and so many resources. But the reality is, when you go your first 3 seasons and you make a conference championship game, you lose a bowl game in 21, which was the first time that had happened. And then you miss a bowl game in 22. Like, I wouldn't say he's in trouble, but that you've got to turn it around. You've got to turn it around because you're not meeting expectations. And so that's where the whole reset thing came up in 23, because they said, look, this isn't working. After the first 3 seasons, especially after 22, they said, this isn't working. We have got to just completely reset, renovate this thing, and get it back to what it needs to be. And we saw that, especially toward the end of last year. But, Jeremy, it's a fair question. I think if we hadn't turned things around in 23, we all know that, more is expected at App State. That's just kind of the nature of being at the head of that program.
So then, jumping to today, one thing that I always thought of with App State teams is that they're kind of complete. They're never like, oh, well, the defense has to make up for the offense, or the special teams has to save the day on this team. There's always seems to be a balance. But the one thing that we noticed on this show for at least the last couple of years is that a good quarterback can throw on Appalachian State. That's where if you can make some moves offensively, it's through the air. How does it look this year? What is of all the strengths, or if there was a weakness, are they buttoned down? Do you feel like this is the team that's going to kind of take care of it from top to bottom?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I would push back on one part of that assessment in that the second half of the season, the defense, and I think when the defense had its struggles last year, it was against the run. They were really good. If you look at their passing statistics defensively, they were really good against the pass. Now what happened though at times in the passing game was they just gave up too many big plays. They gave up too many
That's what I'm
long
thinking,
passes,
yeah.
right? But what the games that really stood out in terms of difficulties on defense, Southern Miss game that they ended up coming back and winning, but Frank Gore Jr. ran for a country mile against the defense,
like he did against everybody.
yeah, and
You're not gonna stop Frank Gore.
they could not stop Troy on the ground in the conference championship game either, and a lot of teams had trouble with that as well. So I would say that's been the point of emphasis in terms of defensive improvement going into this year is they have to be better against the run, and what they have done is they've just said we've got to get bigger. App has always been built on speed on defense, but they might be a little bit undersized. They've had a history of smaller defensive linemen, interior and on the ends. That is not the case anymore because of what they've done in the offseason and because of what they've added in the transfer portal. They've been able to take two guys specifically, Santana Hopper and Montez Kelly, who played nose, that interior position last year. They've been able to move them out to the end where they're more suited physically for those positions. And they've added two guys in the transfer portal that have really added some beef in that middle nose position, 6'4" guys over 300 pounds from power programs. So that's been the point of emphasis. And, as you guys know, as people that follow football, if you have a good front and you have a good pass rush, like they do with a young star in Nate Johnson at the outside linebacker position, you can do a lot of things. You can be really good against the pass and the run with a good front. And that's been a huge point of emphasis. They brought in Eric McDaniel from who was a member of the staff previously, then was at Troy as the defensive line coach. Now he's at App. And so that's been, I think, the biggest, I don't want to say overhaul, but that's been an area of focus in terms of getting that defense to perform consistently at the level that they want to.
Adam, you're as App State can be, dating back to your student days in 2000. How have you kind of seen this program grow and mature as they made that jump from FCS to, well, are they going to be okay when they go up to FBS, to really kind of being one of the premier FBS call-ups, so to say?
Yeah. So, admittedly, I was not as close to the program when they made the jump as I am now. But I do know that it was a very polarizing decision to move from FCS to FBS because the program was winning national championships. And, I think they thought, well, why do we want to make this move? We get to compete for national titles. We get to play regional games against teams that we care about. And so, yeah, there was a split. I don't want to say 50-50, but there were definitely people on both sides of that fence in terms of making that jump. But it was not, it got off to a rocky start. They did not start the transition the way like Georgia Southern did. Georgia Southern ran the table in its first year in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
App goes 4-8 in its transition year with first year head coach Scott Satterfield. And they started 1-5 in 2014. And, Jeremy, you asked the question about the feelings around Sean Clark in 2022. Boy, people were really angry in terms of the way Scott Satterfield started his career because he was taking over for a legend. He was taking over for Jerry Moore, and he comes out and goes 4-8 and then starts 1-5 in his first season and a half. But then the switch flipped, and they finished 2014 strong, and they really never looked back from 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, going to bowl games, winning conference championships. I think it was just, it's having consistency because they had consistency during the transition in terms of once they started to sniff a little bit of success, they still had the same core in place. Scott Satterfield was there. They were running his system. Frank Ponce was there. Scott Sloan was there. The two guys that are, coordinators now. Sean Clark comes on board in 2016, and they had so much continuity on the staff in keeping the coaches around, building, continuing to believe in the system of not trying to win quickly, but trying to build a program, recruiting the high school level, not trying to get in and say, hey, we've got to win right away. It's like, no, this is a process. We want to build something that's built to last. And yes, they took their lumps early on, but that approach paid off because it allowed them to have sustained success. And then inevitably, when you have turnover at the coaching staff and key positions, like, you're going to have some bumps in the road. But keeping that core in place, having a generational talent at quarterback like Taylor Lamb carrying them through that transition was also a big key to that. So, yeah, I mean, it's all about consistency. I mean, you guys know, like, a coach can have 2 great seasons in the Sun Belt and then bolt. And now all of a sudden it's really difficult to keep that winning going for more than 1 or 2 seasons consecutively. But App was able to build something that was going to, stick around for a while and allow them to have success consistently, and now get to the point where, they're a program that expects to contend for championships every year.
So going again into this year, we talked to our good friend, Phil Steele, friend of the show, Phil Steele, and, poured over his assessments and stats. He likes Appalachian State. Rated, along with Arkansas State, Appalachian State's wide receivers amongst the number 1 wide receiving core in the Sun Belt. Tell us what the strengths of that wide receiving core. Who are the guys that are going to shine?
Yeah, so it's it's hard to argue with Phil's assessment because the receiving core is loaded right now. They bring pretty much everybody back. Again, when I talk about success in the transfer portal, the fact that they're bringing back all of their key receivers from last year, and it really starts with Caden Robinson, number 2, a guy who they got out of the transfer portal from UCF a few years ago. But I think the most interesting part about the receiving core this year is, Caden was playing on the outside as a receiver last year. And he had a breakout year. He caught the game-winning touchdown at JMU. He goes over 100 yards in the bowl game. He was almost unstoppable toward the end of the season. The stats that he put up, especially in the latter part of the year, were sensational. But what happened was, going into the bowl game, there's the starting guy out of the slot, Milan Tucker. He enters the transfer portal. He's now at Florida Atlantic. And so, they end up losing some guys out of the slot. They had guys like him. They had guys like Deshaun Davis, who is really talented out of the slot position as well. And so what they did in the bowl game, because they didn't have anybody to put in that slot receiver position, they moved Caden in there to the slot, to the inside. And he has an enormous game. He has 118 yards, a career high for him in a game where it was really tough to throw the ball in essentially a tropical storm in Orlando. So yeah, so you combine him with Christian Horn, who was a captain last year, and he's a guy who's capable of averaging over 15 yards per catch, but he's one of the more productive, consistent receivers that the team has had. And he comes back for his final season. So he's on the outside. You bring in Dalton Stroman, who's a deep threat, who can also play at the same spot as Horn. Mekhi Jackson was a transfer from St. Francis, who was also had big play capabilities, and he's been incredible during fall camp. He's made some big time plays. So between Horn and Mekhi Jackson, you throw Dalton Stroman in there. You've got young talent like Chris Lawson, Grant Tucker from Charlotte, who is their highest rated receiver in program history from a recruiting standpoint. You bring in all that young talent with all that experience, all that production, plus guys at tight end like Eli Wilson, who was one of the top pass catchers at the tight end position last year. there's just so much that's going to be on the field returning from last year. So many weapons and a lot of big play threats. Like, I don't know if all those guys are good enough to command double teams at times, and you obviously can't double all of them. So defenses are going to have an interesting time trying to scheme against those guys. But all those names and all those numbers are a big reason why, respected analysts like Phil Steele think that this wide receiver group can be special.
And Jeremy paid him off.
That's right. Well, I love Phil Steele. Phil and I go way back. 2 years.
Old friends.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Caden Robinson, obviously. He and Joey Aguilar were with Sean Clark at Media Days for the Sun Belt.
That Shane was not at.
I was not there. I watched diligently. But, he mentioned those two guys specifically as guys who had opportunities to go elsewhere. Maybe were tried to be poached to go elsewhere, without saying that. He hinted at that very strongly. What was it that brought those guys back and other guys on the team? Because obviously, you don't have the depth and the continuity coming back unless you build something of this program. But what specifically do you think kind of made these guys think this was where they wanted to be?
Luke McCombs. I answered for you, Adam.
Yeah. I mean, Joey did get to meet him at a concert, so that helps. So I'll start with Joey. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of interest in Joey. If you're a quarterback and you play to that level at a non-autonomy conference school, you're gonna get interest in people wanting you to enter the transfer portal. For Joey's a very level-headed, down-to-earth, easygoing guy.
That's what we thought.
Yeah, he's not super flashy. He doesn't necessarily he just loves playing ball. And he's got a great foundation around him in Boone. He's got a very close circle. He's got an amazing relationship with our offensive coordinator and QB coach and Frank Ponce, who was the one who kind of discovered him out there in California. And honestly, that happened even before Coach Ponce came back to Boone. And so, Joey has moved all the way across the country, and he's found a home where he can be a really good quarterback and a really productive player, and do great things. And
Adam, we asked him too, why didn't you go? Or what brought you to Boone? Why didn't you leave Boone? He said, I love Boone.
He does. He really does. And for someone like him, if you've got a good situation, and I haven't really brought this up with anybody, but Joey's an NFL caliber quarterback. He's got the tools to be that. And he's got all the pieces in place to have another big year statistically. He loves Boone, and why would you want to go start over in a brand new offense with a brand new coach and with 1 year left? And there's a risk in that you could go somewhere and, you don't have the same relationship with your OC. You don't have the same, you have to rebuild that chemistry with your teammates. You have to integrate yourself into a new system, learn a new playbook potentially. And, when you've got a great thing at App, I mean, someone's going to have to, bring you the moon to get you to leave. And that's kind of the way Joey approached it. So, the team, you do have to kind of play against what happens in those situations, and teams trying to recruit you to go to their program after that. But Joey was pretty steadfast. I don't think he ever really wavered in terms of wanting to be at App, wanting to be in Boone. For K-Rob, I thought he said it pretty well at Media Day, which is, K-Rob was once recruited by App out of high school. He's from Asheville, went to AC Reynolds High School, but ended up going to UCF. And then after a short time at UCF, he was interested in coming back to Boone. He's he wanted the opportunity to come to Boone. And he said, I had one catch at UCF in the season before I transferred. And Sean Clark and the coaches wanted me here. And he's like, that showed me something, and I want to remain loyal to that because they took a chance on me. They gave me an opportunity, and I just don't want to, I don't want to bail on that after, again, a great season. you can be great anywhere. You can be great at a place like App, absolutely. And if your dreams, like, could you go 1 year to one place and you get a big NIL deal somewhere, and maybe it works out for a season? Yeah, you could, but if you want to play the long game, stay at a place where they're taking care of you, you're productive, you're getting noticed, and you love where you are, and you love who you're playing with. You can go pro from any program, and if that's your ultimate goal, to go to the pros, both those guys I think have an opportunity to do so. Then you don't have to go anywhere, especially if you like where you are already.
Yeah, you wonder if Zion Chris, the former quarterback for Louisiana, wonder if he felt that same way or feels that same way now that he's in Houston behind so many guys. He could have had the keys. He had the keys.
Mm-hmm.
He had the keys. So, Adam, you were the voice of the Mountaineers. You're the guy. You're the play-by-play guy. So one of the honors bestowed upon the play-by-play guy is you're a member of the infamous play-by-play group chat.
Didn't realize that this had such a reputation.
Wow, I've heard.
Oh, it definitely
I'm
does.
not sure if it's even true.
I want to know though, what has been the off-season talk in the infamous chat?
Oh, let's see. I kind of want to go back and find some of the topics. Well, we all take the opportunity to make fun of Jay Walker.
That's a given.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't know.
He's made fun in all chat groups.
Yeah, and but I love it just because we rag on each other a lot. There's a video of Danny Reed at Georgia Southern just going out and onto a drill area and taking a hit from one of the players on the team. Not sure why he thought that was a good idea.
I could see that Danny doing that.
Well, so here's what typically happens during July and August. It's a lot of talk about broadcast booth locations and who has the best media meal. Speaking of Jay, like they're undergoing a big renovation at their stadium, and so he's sending us pictures of temporary press boxes, and we're like, yeah, we don't really care what the facility is like as long as the media meal stays the same. Like we're good. So it's a lot of that. And then during basketball season, it shifts to other things. During baseball, then it goes off the rails during baseball season because guys are sitting through rain delays, and you have an idea of what the topics might be like. But
it's a tough job.
Yeah, it's
so
it's fun. It's those guys are a riot. They really are.
You've been around the league a couple times now. What is the best press box meal in your opinion?
Oh, wow. Let's see. Press box. So we're talking press box meal and not like road game meal, like before the game, right?
Right.
Available in the press box.
So I'll give a couple different answers here. One, I still think Louisiana has the best press box meal.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Even their Chick-fil-A hits different. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's good. And then, but there is also the iconic beverage fridge at Troy. You guys know what I'm talking about?
I've heard about this beverage fridge.
This beverage fridge is legendary. Like,
how legendary can it be?
Every Coke product.
Picture any flavor of soda.
Okay.
So it's like whether you're a Coke or a Pepsi person, like this one happens to be a Coke fridge. Picture any flavor of Coke: vanilla, cherry, black cherry, raspberry, cotton candy. Probably has like ribeye steak in there or something, and it's like you'll find it in there. It's a Fresca. Like what beverage fridge still has Fresca in it? But I love a good Fresca. So. So I'd say food, Louisiana, and then beverages, Troy.
So I have a kind of darker question for you, Adam. Something that may
like as dark as Shane's camera, or dark.
No, that will give you nightmares moving forward. But I'm talking about your nightmares in the past. Were you on call for the Warhawks versus Mountaineers game last year?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now, I know that as a professional, you have to be even keeled. You have to
No,
just.
I don't. I absolutely no, I don't.
All right, well, but you have to maintain some level of professionalism, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
fair.
of
Fair.
course. How close were you to completely losing your shit?
I think I did. I think my voice definitely cracked a couple of times for sure.
I lost
know
my
Chip
shit.
lost his shit.
It was interesting because we were just we weren't far removed from a game at Wyoming where we lost on a blocked field goal return for a touchdown, and it was like coming out of that, it was like the juxtaposition of that game versus the ULM game where it was you come out of Wyoming and you're thinking we had no business losing that game. I mean, you look at the box score of that game, you're like, how did App lose this game? And then you come out of the ULM game and you're like, we had no business winning that game.
It was an exciting game, though.
It
right?
was.
If you don't have a lot of stakes in it, like me, just watching it for the amusement, going, "Wow, this was an incredible game." I'm sure Thibs spent the next week in a coma. I know that you probably were in the ER for a couple hours. But
My liver still hurts. But Adam, was that your first trip to Monroe?
No. My first trip, unfortunately, let's see. I think my first trip in Monroe was a much worse experience. It was the 42-35 2017 game with Caleb Evans.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
That was my first trip to Monroe. That one was not fun. And then in 20, on 20, I did the game remotely. We didn't even travel for that game during the COVID season.
Yeah. What is it about Monroe that makes it so hard to play there?
Yeah, you guys always have a little trouble there. Yeah,
everybody does.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Well, one team.
You lost the game in 17. Darn near lost the game last year. It's I don't know. We tend to just give up a lot of big plays to ULM, and if I remember correctly, at least in this past game, they threw some stuff at us that was different offensively. That it took us a little while to get adjusted to, but. Yeah, I'm not really sure, man. It's just never been an easy place for us to go down and win, and we've seen it go the wrong way. I mean that 2017 game, that was part of a 2-game stretch where lost at ULM and then lost at UMass, like a bad UMass team in double overtime, back to back.
Wait, there's a good UMass team.
There's never been a good UMass team.
I mean, like in the FCS days, maybe. We played them in a national championship game in 2006 when they were good. But yeah, that was that was a bizarre stretch. Still ended up rebounding and winning a share of the league. But yeah, let's say this: I'm okay with not having to go to Monroe this year.
Did you give Mike Hamlin a Kleenex after the game?
It's funny to sometimes go back and listen to the calls of people on the other end of that. I don't know if I ever went back and listened to Mike Hammett's call of that field goal. I think I might need to do that. That might be.
Did he flip his shit, Thibs?
I don't know.
Mike has become a great war hawk where he just has learned to accept and take an extra pill out of the bottle and just it happens.
What a guy. So Adam, looking back on the FunBelt East and a little bit on the West, I know you're probably more focused on the East, of course. Who in the East are you looking at that you're thinking, all right, these are going to be the big challenges to the Mountaineers this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to find one that won't be a challenge. I mean, the East, I don't know. The East has so many unknowns. I think I remember talking about it at Media Day where it's like, I think App deserved to be picked to win the East. I think they've got enough there to be favored in the division. But I'm also asking the question of like, if you didn't pick App, who would you pick? And I don't say that to knock the other teams. I just think because there's so many unknowns. You've got coaching changes. You've got major changes at key positions at certain teams. Or you just have teams that, I think Georgia Southern's got some good pieces in place, but they're coming off a tough season, and so you just don't know how much they can improve overall after last year. Georgia State's got a new coach. Marshall's got some. They're kind of revamping their offense a little bit, and they're gonna have new new players at skill positions on the offense. So and JMU had a great year, but new quarterback, new head coach, right? And a lot of guys transferring after Signetti left. So I really asked the question of, and Coastal Carolina without Grayson McCall. So, it's if you didn't pick App, who were you going to pick? But in terms of your question, the road games always make you nervous. I mean, we got to go to Statesboro at the end of the year. We got to go to Marshall. This is the schedule that we had 2 years ago in 2022 when the wheels kind of fell off. We went to Marshall and lost, went to Coastal Carolina and lost, went to Georgia Southern and lost in double overtime to knock us out of a bowl game. So yeah, you're facing that same road schedule in the East Division. I think, if I'm just picking who I think would finish, if I wasn't picking App, who I would pick to win the East, I might even go like Old Dominion.
The weirdest
Let's
team
get
in
weird.
the
Their offense was really interesting last year. It was different, just spreading you out, playing everything outside the numbers in terms of pre-snap. But they've got the best defensive player in the conference, one of the best in the country. Their defense, I think, is getting, and they've got some consistency there. And Ricky Ronnie, I think, is putting together a pretty decent program right now. So, they're a team I think that scares you a little bit because they're under the radar, but I think they have enough talent there where maybe they should be on people's radar a little bit more. So, the road games always make me nervous though. I always like our chances at home because we have such a home field advantage at Kid Brewer. Not that we can't lose, but I like the advantage that they get in being at home. But when you go on the road, especially to places like Marshall and Georgia Southern and Coastal, like those are tough places to play. So, those ones always make you a little nervous.
The Liberty game. Is it a big game because you're playing Conference USA, one of the big rivals there of the Sun Belt, because you're playing Liberty, who it seems like is the most hated G5 school, or because you're playing the man that pisses Till and now presumably Red in Jamie Chadwell? Well, why is this game important?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the things you mentioned make it for it makes it a very appetizing and interesting non-conference game for people to pay attention to. This game matters to us because this could be if you're talking about a team that can win the Sun Belt and a team that can win Conference USA, you're playing to see if one of those teams can get the upper hand in a potential playoff spot, right? Because you've got these 5 conferences in the MAC and the Mountain West, Sun Belt, Conference USA, and the American, all fighting for a guaranteed playoff spot, right? And App and Liberty have a tremendous opportunity to get a quality win that will matter if they win the league. It will matter when it comes to playoff rankings because you have a conference champion from a group of 5 conference beating another conference champion from a group of 5 conference potentially. So that's why this game matters. But yeah, I mean, there's history with Liberty. These two programs are not very far apart. Lynchburg and Boone are both mountain type communities. And they're not far apart. So the fan bases would both travel well to either location. We're expecting to see a lot of Liberty fans at the game. It's already sold out. And so, yeah, like it's a big deal. And then you throw in like, oh yeah, we've got history with Jamie Chadwell. I think you've got maybe the 2 best quarterbacks in the group of 5 playing in that game, potentially, if not the 2 best, then 2 of the best. So yeah, there's tremendous storylines in this game, but I think the biggest reason why it matters is because there could be playoff stakes. You never know. And that's why I think it's so cool.
You need to beat those douche canoes so we do not have douche.
I think that's a combination of words I haven't heard before.
Well, I combine them together special for Liberty because I'm so tired of them. I hate them being on in the national conversation. I hate them being ranked in any way, form, or fashion. Please, for the love of God, in week 5, get them out of the news feed. So I will be a big fan of Appalachian State in week 5.
We'll all be Mountaineers that week.
That's
We'll take
right.
it. We'll take it.
I will smoke the Yosef corncob pipe in honor of that victory. That would be out freaking standing.
I'm glad he didn't specify what would be in the corncob pipe.
Well, there might be some fun stuff in there. Other than that, do you have a view of the Sun Belt West? I know it's very hard the way we have it divisionally stand off to where we sort of put everybody in silos. You only get Louisiana and South Alabama this year, both tough place or tough opponents to play. What's your view on the Sun Belt West? If you have one, which is fine if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, first of all, I like that we still have divisions in this
Me
conference.
too.
It makes all the sense in the world. I do not pay I have not paid as much attention to the West at this point. We did not stick around for the West Division Day of Media Day. We were already on our way back to North Carolina that night. So
come on, man.
I lean on you guys for more of the West Division. But I know that everybody, I think, and rightfully so, I think everyone's high on Texas State. That seems to be the popular choice to win the West. I know that we've got 2 tough ones. Lately we have not had a lot of success going down to Louisiana. It is home to my favorite meal when going on the road.
And you'll have that.
Old Time Grocery. Shout out to them. And then South Alabama, which, yes, they have a coaching change, but they kept some continuity with Major Applewhite. So, I mean, outside of those 2 teams, and then we'll see who we get. If there's a championship game, we'll see if we get a chance to play in that and who we might get. But I honestly lean on you guys, and I would turn the question back on you. Do you guys buy into the Texas State hype this year?
I do. I know how much you love Texas State.
I mean, I love Viva La Boobcats, but I got to be honest. I think what Butch Jones has this year, if they're healthy and they can stay healthy, because I don't know how deep they are, I think that's the team in the West right now.
Shane, you were going to chime in.
I was going to say it's similar to what Thibs said. I do kind of believe the Texas State hype, but I also think Arkansas State maybe should be right up there with them, and that game might determine who ends up in the championship game.
You know what Texas State kind of reminds me of is how, when Georgia Southern hired Clay Helton, and they were supposed to have a bad season because they were revamping the offense and absorbing the new coach and the new system, and everybody's waiting kind of for that. Okay, let's let Georgia Southern, have that grace period. And they had a pretty good season that first. I think it was 6 wins, but it was much better than what they thought. I kind of feel like that way about Texas State. They get the new coach, they bring in all those word cats in there, or incarnate word guys in there. They all play very well and a little bit over their heads, and now they're really feeling it. I don't know if that was real or not. It's unfair for me to say it isn't, but I don't know if it's real. So I think we're all just kind of waiting to see if that's real.
I don't know if these are similar, but we ran into this in 21. I mentioned earlier losing the bowl game in 21. We lost to Western Kentucky. And if you remember, that was the you mentioned all the guys from Incarnate Word coming into Texas State. That was the Houston Baptist transfer into Western Kentucky, led by Bailey Zappi, who, my goodness, that was impressive.
He was destined to throw those touchdowns.
Yeah, and so they came in and almost like they were mercenaries, and they were amazing that year, and they beat us in the bowl game, and then everybody goes their separate ways and they move on to other jobs, and it's kind of like, it was great for a season, and then it kind of comes back to reality. And that's not saying that's happening with Texas State, because Kenny's still there, but we've seen that at other places where you just get this influx of players from these really high-powered offenses or programs at lower levels. And they all stick together and move up to a different school.
Yeah, and having Jordan McLeod helps, and having a couple of those skill players come back helps. And Shane, no, I'm sorry, Shane, I can't use this Shane because you weren't there. This is Sunbelt Media Days Club question only. Thibs, it felt like Kenny was really confident. Did he not kind of exude confidence with his big belt buckle and his $3 million smile, and he just seemed like he
felt a lot more comfortable.
Yes,
he felt a lot more comfortable being there. Last year, he was fish out of water. I don't know what to do. I just got here from the Southland, and there's all these expectations that I got to right the ship. And now that he seems like, okay, we made it. I can breathe.
He seemed to really enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's get to work and try to repeat.
But yeah, that's all. Yeah. What? Huh?
Shane, where are you?
Like physically, where am I?
No, in the ethereal plane.
I was told I wasn't involved in this conversation.
That's true. That's true. I shut him out, Tibbs. I closed the door.
When have you ever listened to anything Jeremy had to say?
Yeah, what's this one that I have authority?
No, I agree. I mean, Kenny he kind of does exude that confidence. I think he did last year, especially when things were going well. And yeah, they know they're the favorites, and they're kind of taking that attitude into the season, and maybe rightfully so. It's not going to be easy to win the West, but I think they're favorites for a reason.
The one thing I did notice, Shane, amongst the top quarterbacks that came through there, Jordan McLeod, you're very familiar with McLeod. We saw Joey Aguilar, Arkansas State's Jalen Rayner also came by. And something that really struck me about all three of those guys, I expected some cockiness because all three had success last year. Didn't get a whiff of that. I expected a little bit of maybe even a little aloofness. None of that. These guys were the most sort of, they were confident guys. You could tell that they were confident in their own skin and confident in their team members, but none of them seemed to have egos or like some sort of chip on their shoulder. They just seemed like down to earth guys. Did you feel that way, Adam? You probably talked to all those guys too.
Yeah, I can speak to at least, Joey Aguilar. We've talked about him, very down to earth guys, as we've discussed. Jordan McLeod appears to be that way. I don't claim to know him all that well. I will say Jalen Rayner is an interesting one because he's from a big time program here in North Carolina.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he went to East Forsyth High School in Kernersville, which is like right between Winston-Salem and Greensboro, and they're a powerhouse type of program over here. So he seems to be the right fit for them. From all indications, Jordan McLeod is fitting in well at Texas State. But yeah, I think when you see the quarterbacks, and we didn't see a lot of quarterbacks, if I recall, at Media Day.
I think only 3 showed up, and if you left for the West, you only had the one. But yeah, we didn't have a whole lot. So, if you want to talk to offensive linemen, that was the place to be.
Yeah. So, but I think a lot of these quarterbacks are, at least the ones I've come across, like they're very level headed. And now we've got another former starter from the Sun Belt, Billy Wiles from Southern Miss, who transfers into App, and now he's on the depth chart for QB. And so they, the reviews have been very, very positive from him in fall camp. But yeah, it's I've been impressed with the QBs. They especially someone like Joey, you're named preseason offensive player of the year. Last year, fighting for a job. This year, you're I don't want to say this is the way he approaches it, but you look at him and you say, okay, well, can you live up to the expectations now that people have? What are you going to do next? Doesn't really rattle Joey. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter the stakes, the setting, the situation. One of Joey's favorite phrases is "ball is ball," and it doesn't matter what else is around it. It's just playing football. So he's a fun dude to be around. Very level headed. Casual, and if you're going to have somebody in place to handle all this hype and excitement and anticipation. Joey's the perfect guy to do it.
Well, ball is ball. And when we need to talk about Appalachian State ball, Adam Witten is the guy. Adam, play-by-play man for Appalachian State. Got that silky smooth voice. We appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much for giving us the education we needed.
I appreciate it, guys. And if I nail a big call this year, my phrase is just going to be call is call. Instead of ball is ball.
That would be perfect. Call is call.
Yeah. No, it was fun, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and look forward to seeing you guys on the FunBelt Road at some point.
Thanks,
Sounds
Adam.
great. Thank you, Adam. So, guys, there it is. We learned more about the East. We learned more about the FunBelt champs. That's probably going to be of the apps. Sorry, my brain is locking up there. Yeah. I'm trying to imitate Shane. Is what I'm really trying to do.
Then he vanished.
I offended him.
Poor Shane. We need to ask him what he's not at his house. Where is he?
We don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a good interview with Adam. I mean, Adam knows his stuff about Appalachian State and the FunBelt East, and has done his homework. And he seems like he's ready for the season. Could have used a few more salacious stories though from the legendary announcers thread.
Very much so. But, we have our own thread for plugs, promos, and parting shots. Jeremy, go ahead and throw it out.
So originally I was going to get all mad about the AP and the top 25 and how it's just become sort of a showcase for the usual schools. And it drives me nuts. I thought, I've done that 100 times. And it just really just makes me angry. So I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be angry tonight. Instead, I want to talk a little bit about something I read on Twitter. It reminded me of a story that happened several years ago. It's actually somebody else's story, but I'm going to tell it like it's my own. So I read on Twitter that Halle Berry has been knocked out on set 3 times, like in her action movie roles. And I thought to myself, oh my God, what if you're the guy, the stuntman or whatever, that accidentally knocks out Halle Berry on set? I mean, do you just get knocked out yourself and you wake up manning a radar tower in Alaska? They mail you your clothes. I mean, you'll never see it again. But it reminded me of this story that I don't know if you guys know Tommy Walker. He's an old offensive lineman for Arkansas State and has been affiliated with the team ever since that time. But after his career at Arkansas State, he was in production. He worked in a production company for movies. And one of the movies he worked on was The Firm, which was filmed in Memphis, starring Tom Cruise. And, there's some downtime. There's always a lot of downtime when you're making these movies. And Tom just liked to get physical. He liked to go do stuff, kind of like what you saw in his at the Olympics where he rappels down. Well, he decided the grips are out there playing touch football, and he decides he wants to play. So he gets out there, and they're playing football. The star of the movie is out there, playing football with the assistants and the grips and the crew of the movie The Firm. Somebody tackles Tom Cruise, just hits him hard, just knocks him off his feet. Bam! Tom Cruise, he gets up, he's fine. Game's over. He goes back to his tent. The next day, the producers come out and hand out written warnings to everybody. There will be no more football with Tom Cruise. So that was my story. It's a Tom Cruise story because it had something to do with the Olympics, had something to do with Hollywood movies, and quite frankly, I didn't want to talk about the AP Top 25.
You brought up the Olympics.
Ooh, okay.
My parting shot.
Let's hear it.
She scored a 0.0, Jeremy. Surely we would be able to at least get a point. And that, of course, I'm talking about the infamous Ray Gunn, the Australian breakdancer.
I love her.
Why in the hell is breakdancing an Olympic sport? And B, How the hell do you score a 0.0? I could only think of Animal House, where they're finding out that they're on double secret probation and your GPA is a 0.0. You didn't even try.
Okay, first of all, one, it's not the Olympic sports; it's the Olympic Games. So yes, you're going to get an eclectic sort of activities in the Olympics. I'm fine with breakdancing being part of it. In fact, I was looking forward to watching it. I saw a little bit of this woman's moves, and I don't know if you heard any interviews with her. She's kind of funny. She's like, I know I wasn't going to win. I'm a PE instructor or whatever she was in Australia. I just wanted to be an Olympian. And she achieved that dream, Thibs. She will always be an Australian Olympian. She will get that tattoo that Olympians get. The 5 rings and stuff. She is, even though she scored a 0.0, an Olympic athlete. So congratulations to that lady. I thought it was funny that she was even out there. She's made some impressive memes. She's taken it all with stride. I love her.
Shane got the Olympic tattoo because he's an Olympian as well and closes us out while he's still connected with his plug promo parting shot.
This was a tough show for Shane.
Yeah, I kind of made it through, though.
You did. You soldiered through.
Yeah. Is it my turn?
Oh, yeah, we're parting shots and plugs and promos.
All right, mine's part promo, part parting shot, I guess, because Adam, when he was talking about reason guys came back to App State this year, kind of went a little bit with, I've got a story coming out soon about JMU basketball, and one of their new assistant coaches, Dom Lombardi, is very well connected to the guy who runs the JMU Duke Club, Scooter Rinkin. They were teammates in high school, or not high school. They were teammates in college. They wound up back together. They've been best friends. They've been in each other's weddings, worked out. They got back together. So just thinking about those guys and thinking about these guys who came back to App State and things they were talking about, how, sometimes guys are losing out now on that opportunity to be a teammate with somebody for 2, 3, 4 years in college, and then being part of each other's lives for the rest of their lives, because they've been through that. They've become best friends. I know those are the guys that I still talk to from, before I became an adult with kids and not having time for anything else. Like, the guys I still stay connected with are those ones that I met in college and played with. They're my teammates. They're my best friends for life. Seeing that discussed and seeing everything with the transfer portal, I'm not going to fault anybody for transferring, but that may be just one more thing to consider before you put your name in the portal, before you do anything. Like, what are you giving up beyond your college life and your sports life if you don't stick around with these guys for a little bit longer while you have the opportunity to? And that's my old man soapbox parting shot there.
I love that old man soapbox. We talked a little bit about Tommy Walker. I mentioned him. He's in his 60s now. He was part of the 80s teams that did really good at Arkansas State. He's part of something called the Old Warriors Club. It's all the old football alumnus. They get together every football game, have a big tailgate, and that's his community. That's his tribe. I mean, that will be his lifelong friends, the guys that were in the trenches with him the entire time. And yeah, the transfer portal can kind of take that away. I mean, it's too bad that some of these kids are going to miss out on that.
Next thing you know, you'll be recording bi-weekly podcasts with just a bunch of old guys.
Exactly.
Don't become us.